All advertising has an impact.
Rather are they against advertising which is boring or in bad taste?
This is Not Your Mama's Marketing Podcast, a show for any business owner or professional that isn't afraid to step out of the box to create advertising that actually gets your company noticed. My name is Brianna Duckworth, and I'm the owner and founder of GoDuck Marketing and Media in West Virginia.
And I'm Lindsay Berardi, the digital marketing and account manager and Brianna's right-hand gal. Each week, we'll be discussing creative tactics that will help achieve real results for your small business.
In other words, this is Not Your Mama's Marketing Podcast. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome back to Not Your Mama's Marketing Podcast. We are here for the next episode. We are talking about tips and tricks for marketing in rural areas. Not our most creative title, but it gets the point across.
Yeah, you know exactly what we're talking about today.
I think we know a little bit, just a tad, about marketing in rural areas, as when I started this company, I started a marketing company literally in a rural area in Beckley, West Virginia. So we know a lot about marketing to rural areas.
I'd say we do live in rural areas ourselves too. We should know what we're talking about.
We sure should. And we know exactly what a rural audience likes as well. It's so important because it's completely different than urban areas. It's completely different.
Yeah. So what even is a rural area? I'm sure most of you know, but according to the U.S. Census, rural areas are based on population density, distance from an urban area, and land use. About 20% of the U.S. population still lives in rural areas, while in West Virginia, right here in West Virginia, it's at almost 65%. And if you're from here, you know that sounds just about right. This is an incredibly complicated metric to measure. But, you know, if you're a native West Virginian, that sounds just about right.
But this isn't just for West Virginia either. This is for a lot of, if you're not from West Virginia and you're sitting here listening to this podcast and you're thinking, oh, well, this doesn't relate to me because I'm in Ohio or I'm in wherever. No, there's a rural area in every state. Every state has rural areas. And so...
some more than others, obviously.
Well, of course. But as a whole, there is a way that you market to rural areas that is a huge difference to marketing to urban areas. Rural areas need to be marketed to just as much as urban areas. And you've got, if you're not marketing to those rural areas, then you are missing a serious demographic of people.
And a huge business opportunity.
Massive. Because rural people are just as interested in what you're selling as urban people. They're a little bit of a harder audience to reach, but they're worth it because if you can grab them, they're very loyal. They're very, very brand loyal. We're going to be talking about a lot of that stuff moving forward.
Yeah. So who are they? Who are these rural people? Well, we could just start with who me and Brianna are, but I won't do that. You want to be totally realistic here. You want to be realistic when you're trying to target rural people. You still need to be very specific about who they are, the demographics, where they're living, because not all country rural folk are the same. Some are way more technologically advanced than others.
Basically, so if you're targeting to an urban area, and if you've had experience marketing to places where there's just more population density, you have all of these different demographics and different types of people that are scattered around in this in this hub of a city or something like that. Well, you've got literally the exact same thing in a rural area. It's just on a smaller scale.
And more spread out.
And so being able to hit those pockets of people and being able to kind of differentiate them, that is really, really important. Same for an urban area as it is for a small town, rural area. You've got these different demographics that you have to hit. One of the best examples I can come up with for that is the difference between me, who I'm technically a zillennial. I'm kind of in the middle, in between millennial and Gen Z, and I've got a very specific type of ad that I go for. If you look at my at the ads that come up on my phone, they're going to be very different from the ads that come up on my mom's phone. And they're going to be very different from the ads that come up on my dad's phone. And, however it is. But when it comes to just targeting in general, you look at my grandma was part of the Greatest Generation, and she grew up in a coal camp in West Virginia. That's one thing that is really interesting about rural areas is in areas like this, you've got people who grew up in such extremely different lives, such extremely different cultures. What life was like not even 100 years ago is 100% different than it is now. And I mean, you didn't see people doing this, like
No.
sitting in front of microphones and having a podcast. That wasn't something that existed. It existed in a radio sense, but definitely not in the sense that we're doing it now.
No, not something that everybody had access to.
No, absolutely not. And we had easy access. It was just to click a few buttons. We bought some microphones. We bought some stuff to be able to get our podcast together. Easy peasy. That was not life for like my grandma, who grew up in a coal camp in West Virginia and grew up very poor. Your upbringing shapes you. I promise I'm going somewhere with this story, in that because she was the oldest of 13 kids, or she was the oldest girl of 13 kids. I only have one sister. You don't
I
see
only have
people with
one
13
brother.
kids anymore. Yeah.
No.
That's not something you see. She grew up in a completely different world than I grew up in. So is it any question why she would like different ads than I liked, or like different things than I liked, or be affected by different stories or whatever?
Right.
And that's a long stretch of difference between the Greatest Generation and Zillennial. But that's who you're targeting to. I mean, you've
And
got
everything in between.
And everything in between. You have got, preteen or kid to like 90 something years old. I mean, that's a far reach of a lot of different people. And not only are you doing that in an urban area, but you'd be doing that in a rural area as well. And here in rural areas like this, it's really important to create that differentiation.
Point is, all of these demographics, all of these different life events and life scenarios, they all need representation, and they all value and care about different things. If you're an advertising person, that is just common knowledge. Mm-hmm. But one thing that they all care about is the 4 A's.
The 4 A's? Lindsay, what in the world is that?
I'm so glad you asked me. 4A model to rural marketing. This is the 4 A's that you need to know when you're trying to market to rural folks. 1, affordability. If it's expensive, express that value.
Even if you're like, this is a very expensive item that I'm trying to sell, you have to show the value.
Second A, availability. How easily accessible or convenient is your product or service to them?
Mm-hmm. Number 3, awareness. Awareness. This is where those social media platforms and things like that come into your business. You have to make people aware of who you are and what you're selling.
And last but not least, acceptability. These people are all about socially acceptable concepts. On top of that, they also are very brand loyal. Mm-hmm. So can they come to accept a new product or service?
Especially those older generations. I would say really like 50 up is going to be very, very brand loyal. They find a brand, they stick to it. They find a local business, they stick to it. They are extremely, extremely brand loyal. So once you can get those folks in your grasp, then they're probably going to stick with you for a while. Yeah. Those 4 things are important no matter how you're advertising to, but it just is on another level with rural areas. It's just on another level because when you make your product affordable, when it's available, when you make your business, when people are aware of your business, and when people accept your business, because also another thing, small towns with acceptability, small towns are typically a little more closed off. Mm-hmm. Those bigger cities, businesses come and go all the time. It's not that big of a deal for a business to come in and out. And so when a business comes in or out, they're just dealing with it. They're taking it in stride. They'll accept, they'll move on after they're gone, whatever. It is not the same with a rural area. I mean, we have businesses that come in and it's a big deal. When another business comes in, you hear about it. Like it is talked about all over the place if a new business is moving in. And especially if a beloved business is is going away, that's something that's heard about too. So it's just that making it acceptable for the people who live here. It's a big deal.
So it normally takes most people about 6 times to see an ad or hear about a business before they actually make a decision or even buy something in the first place. Then add on this 4A model when you're trying to market to rural areas.
I mean, like we've said, they're a hard audience to sell to, but it's not something to get discouraged about. They're a hard audience, but that doesn't mean they're not worth the sell.
Just makes it worth it even more.
It just makes it worth it so much more because, like we said, they're so brand loyal. So it's just such a bigger deal.
And once you get in with rural people, they are so loyal that word of mouth still goes very far around here. And I'm sure it does in most rural areas too.
Word of mouth is a big deal in a rural area.
So if you get in with somebody or a group of somebody in your community, you're in.
And I'm sure if you're a business owner or you work in a business that has that you've seen grow over a span of years, you've been able to see that what word of mouth can do, and what a good reputation will do for a company. And maybe you've actually seen also what a bad reputation can do for a company, because it's the same deal.
The platform and the content are really the most important thing when we're talking about advertising. It needs to be, 1, needs to be where they're at, and 2, what they want to see.
Exactly. The best thing that we do for clients, I mean, as a marketing agency, that is one of the biggest things that we do. One of our biggest things is we have these do-it-all packages where we take a client and they give us their entire marketing budget, and then we allot it where it's supposed to go. We come up with the strategy and we create a whole plan behind it. And one of the biggest things that we always try to do is mixed media. And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about, where it takes 6 times to see an ad, or it takes 6 times for someone to respond to an ad or notice an ad. We're so oversaturated with ads. We see an average of about 5,000 ads a day. Doesn't that sound about right too? Like, you go on social media, you see ads constantly on Facebook, on TikTok, when you're just going down the street, billboards, watching TV and seeing ads pop up on there, YouTube. I mean, you see ads on the daily.
I think it might be more now, because some ads, I don't even think some people know some ads are ads, like influencer marketing, like sponsored searches. Most people don't even know that those are ads. People are being paid to do those things.
Yeah. So the point is, you get so many ads per day that it's so easy for your ad, whatever you're putting out there, it's so easy for it to just get lost in the mix of all of that. So on average, as long as you have a good ad, it takes about 6 times for someone to see your ad before they're going to actually notice it. But that's not just saying any old ad. That's if you have the same Facebook graphic that's going up there, and then you have that and you only have that and you're trying to put that out. If someone sees that 6 times, it's probably not going to stick. But one of the ways that people really are able to see an ad stick is if it's mixed with all of the things that they're doing in their daily lives. If they're watching a YouTube video about something that's totally unrelated to your product, and then they see your ad pop up on YouTube, they might not notice it then, but then the next moment they're scrolling on Facebook and they see your ad pop up there. Well, maybe they notice it that time, but they keep scrolling. And then the next time they're looking at a recipe on Google, and then it pops up there too. And making sure that it's just your ad is everywhere. And almost make it look like a sign. Like it's a sign that it's showing up in front of them. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm seeing this ad so many times.
And that's just the digital platforms. We also do a lot of traditional marketing. We do a lot of local TV. We do radio, newspaper. That is all still relevant in rural areas. Especially
in rural areas, that is very, very relevant. There's still a lot to be said for those traditional news outlets and that traditional media. It's a big deal here.
Everybody has discounted them. Don't discount your local news medias, okay?
They hold a lot of weight.
Yeah.
They really do.
So tell me, what is really going to sell my product or service to somebody who lives in a rural area? What would be the one thing?
Well, I have a really good answer for that. Making it personal. Make it personal.
I should have known.
Have a story. Have a story to tell. If you own a local business, you have a story to tell. You've got some really cool way that you started this business, or something really cool has happened in the mix of starting this business, and you're a local person who has started it. You're involved in the community. Make it personal, to where people in rural areas like to be involved in what's going on.
They want to feel like they're a part of your business.
We rural people, we country folk, we are very sappy.
We love the personal touches. We really
We do. And we like to feel involved. We're so nosy. We like to feel involved in what's going on in the community.
Most rural people are very heavily involved in their community anyways. So if they see a business that's not involved in the community at all, then
Sharing your story really adds value to your business. If you if you think that separating yourself from your business, or your own personal stories, or your own personal anything from your business is really going to do something for you, it's not. That's just not the way it is. So it really adds value to your business. Rural areas want to feel like they're part of your business. They want to feel involved. And they want to feel like you're involved in the community. They want to feel like you care about what's going on in the community. They really do.
yeah, they do. Because I care about that, and I'm sure you do too.
As a whole, whenever you're putting out ads for rural communities, making it personal will make all the difference. I promise you. It'll make a huge difference.
So now, where are these rural folk, Brianna?
Well, it's going to depend. It's going to depend on your target audience. They'll be using different platforms. They want to see different types of content. They want to see different types of media. One thing that we've noticed is different demographics like different content. They want to see different things. It might surprise people how different that stuff is. One ad that you have just as a whole, one ad that covers all your bases usually doesn't work.
No,
That's
you
not
have to get very specific.
You do. You have to get really specific. And we like to run multiple campaigns for different age groups and different demographics. And we like to create content that's specifically for those different age groups and different demographics and different tax brackets even. I mean,
On the same platforms. We're talking about the same digital platforms. So, for example, like a man, aged 18 to 25, about our age. They are very, very typical users of YouTube, TikTok, streaming platforms. We are too. But I think you might be surprised to know that a lot of people over the age of 30 and 35 are also very heavy users, just not as much. They don't make up the bulk of the population on these platforms, but they're still on there.
it's important to look at that data to be able to know that too, to be able to know where they are. This isn't just, we're not talking about physical location of where these audiences are. We're talking about what kind of platforms they're on. What are they looking at? Where are they on their phones? What kind of apps are they using? Are they typically watching like local news? Well, if we're talking about 18 to 25-year-old males, probably not. But if we're talking about males 60 plus, they're probably there.
Yep. So you know by those algorithms and the For You pages that everything is tailored to you. What your ads need to be too if you're going to be targeting people on those platforms.
Mm-hmm. If you have ever wondered, hey, I think my phone's listening to me. It is. It's listening to everything you say. It's literally listening to you. It is following along with the things that you research. It knows what you like to buy. It knows what you like. And I know that might be a little scary, but it's true. That's what's going on.
It knows what you're in market to buy. It knows where you like to frequent. It knows everything.
It knows everything.
It knows all. If you could see some of the targeting options that I have when I'm doing campaigns, you might be scared.
Mm-hmm. It is a little scary.
Be like, how can you even track me like this?
No, it's crazy. It's crazy. So one thing that's the world that we live in now, where, I mean, one thing on TikTok, if you're on TikTok, then you know that there is something called the For You page. And the For You page is literally a page made For You, where it
Perfect name.
it's crazy. So based off of the things that you like, based off of the things that you double tap, TikTok takes notice of that. They keep all of that data. And then on the For You page, they give you the videos that they think that you're going to like, because ultimately they want you to stay on the app. They want you to keep scrolling, because the more you scroll, the more ads you're going to watch, and the more you're going to just stay on the app. So it's important to them that you keep scrolling. So one thing that I noticed is my dad is on TikTok. And he likes TikTok. He probably would hate that I'm even saying that right now and on this podcast, but he does. He loves TikTok, and I love TikTok. But we were sitting together scrolling through TikTok at one point, and I remember looking over at his For You page. But just like, I mean, the total difference of what you're
Country
looking
music.
at. Yeah, like a lot of country music stuff, a lot of just, I don't know, a lot of talk shows, a lot of political stuff. Like he was seeing a lot of political stuff.
Oh, well, yeah.
And on my For You page is all funny. It's only fun. Like they don't give me anything that's not funny, because that's what I'm on TikTok to do.
I
is
just
laugh.
want to see my silly, girly, goofy stuff. You know, that's what I'm on TikTok
Yeah,
for.
there's probably a lot of Taylor Swift on mine. But it all depends on your type of business, your type of content, and the type of audience that you want to reach. Rural areas are not that different from urban areas in that way. People are still going to be people. They like what they like. So being able to capture that and to know kind of what they want specifically is going to be really important. So marketing to rural areas, it's just as important as marketing to urban areas. And I think that everybody knows that in their heads. But if you think that just because you're a small business in a small town that you don't have a lot of merit in terms of marketing, and you don't have as big of a pool to be able to advertise to, then you're not doing it right. You have
I think you're discounting a lot of people, and you're really missing out on new business, honestly, because you could find somebody that really just sets it off for your business. They could be a community stakeholder, and then all of a sudden they find you through your advertising, your amazing advertising. And then that's it. You're set up.
That's it right there. So one thing that's important, define your audience, figure out who they are. This also goes hand in hand with branding, which we talked about in our first podcast, is defining your brand, figuring out who your brand is, and figuring out that target audience is part of that. So you got to define your audience from demographics, from psychographics, down to buying behaviors, life events, all of those things. Super important to be able to know where people are in life when they want to buy your product or your service.
And another thing to conclude on is research.
What?
Doing more research. Is that a common theme yet? Have we brought it up enough yet? I don't think so. I could talk about it more. Once you have defined your audience, done all that great branding stuff, now it's time to research the platforms that your audience is on and find out the content that they want to see.
Be realistic about why you want to target a rural area, and then be realistic about your approach to those rural areas, because it can't be the same as an urban area. And finally, content matters literally more than anything. It matters so much.
Literally forget everything we just said in this podcast, because content that you put out is the only thing that matters at the end of the day to people that live in rural populations.
If you do everything that we just said correctly, but your content sucks, then it doesn't matter how much money you're spending to put that content out there. If it's not the right content, then you're not going to get the folks you need. But that is all we've got for you. If you want to keep up with everything that GoDuck Marketing and Media is doing, be sure to follow us on all platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
We got it all.
We've got everything at
GoDuck
GoDuck Media. At GoDuck Media on everything. You really just type in our name and you'll find us somewhere.
Look for the big yellow duck. You can't miss it.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Not Your Mama's Marketing Podcast, and we will see you next Tuesday.